What's going on, guys? I know it's been a minute since I've posted my last Magic the Gathering video, and actually I was going to be posting a different video than today's video. So today's video, we're going to be diving into some Clerics Reanimate, which is a deck I kind of came up with. I feel like I've seen something like this kind of going around, but this is kind of like my version with some interesting cards in the deck overall, but I'll get into that in a second. But with that being said, I was going to create a different video, but somehow I'm still in the process of still fine-tuning my software and trying just to figure out my software as a whole, just sending it back up to where it was. And somehow my last video file that I recorded, which was a continuation of the starter decks I was going over, somehow got corrupted in the process of recording. So I actually lost all my footage I had already recorded for that. So I decided to throw this video together for you guys real quick. But with that being said, guys, if you like the video, that like button, it definitely helps out a lot. If you're new here, want to know post videos on the channel, hit that subscribe button. But enough talking, let me just dive into the deck and let's talk about it. So if you've been around in Magic the Gathering as a whole, or since M21, you may have seen some sort of Clerics decks, and I think Clerics have kind of gotten a little bit of a bump from Zendikar Rising, but not really seen too much love really since that. Other than like maybe a couple here and there Clerics, overall the deck hasn't really changed too much drastically. We are going with an idea of, I'm calling it like a Reanimating Clerics deck, just on the basis of we do play some cards that help us reanimate some of our Clerics to the battlefield from the graveyard if one of our Clerics do die. And that card we're using to do that is the Orzhov Skyclave Hierophant. It is a 4-mana 3/3 lifelinker. When one Skyclave or another Cleric we control dies, we return a Cleric card with a lesser converted mana cost from our graveyard to the battlefield. And essentially, he is our most expensive Cleric, so if he dies, we get to return one of our 3-drops if it's in the graveyard, one of our 2-drops if a 3-drop dies, so on and so forth. We kind of work down the chain and kind of get Clerics back on the battlefield, whether they re-trigger their enter the battlefield abilities or they, they just get back on the battlefield like a Veto if Veto gets somehow moved to the game, or killed in the game and it gets, brought back from the grave. The other thing too that I thought of that I didn't actually include in the deck because I just wanted to kind of focus on Clerics and not really play too much in the way of other cards, is I didn't actually call the Death Dweller is a card that you possibly could play at the 3-mana slot. I just didn't really know where I could cut back to kind of fit that into the deck, but I decided to go with this kind of board overall. So a lot of the cards we're playing are going to help us kind of gain life in a way, just because that helps benefit us with the Veto action. Because whenever we would gain life, target opponent loses that much life, which definitely, if you've seen some of the games here, which I already recorded before actually doing this intro, he is going to help us win some games just because of that ability. The other idea here is we can tap 5 mana, we give all our creatures lifelink if they don't have lifelink, and essentially just, be able to, get that extra damage in, even if our opponent decides to block. So there is that. Also, Orzhov, like I said before, he is the other kind of main card of the deck. This and this kind of work in tandem. Him having lifelink and getting cards back from our graveyard, him allowing our creatures with our lifelink to, regardless of whether or not the damage gets through, it will still do damage to our opponent. In our 1-drop slot, we are playing Speaker of the Heavens because it's a solid 1-drop, 1/1 Cleric. It's gonna, if we get to a certain amount of life total, we can start producing 4 Angel tokens, which is a benefit, but a 1-mana 1/1 Vigilance lifelinker is definitely very good for this style of deck. 3 copies of Archfiend's Vessel. It is a 1-mana 1/1 lifelinker. Enters the battlefield if it entered from a graveyard or we cast it from a graveyard, exile it if you do create a 5/5 Black Demon creature token. You can get it back with something, one of our creatures dying from, that, and then we get this back on the battlefield. We get a 5/5 out of it, which is definitely beneficial. But, it's just one of those additional benefits, just another solid 1-drop overall. I decided to go with Erebus Intervention in this deck just because, there's a lot of things that give things indestructible. And -X is our kind of way to get around it, and we gain some life out of it, which is definitely beneficial to us. Sure, and if our opponent's using things from their graveyard, we can always exile up to twice X target cards from their graveyard, which is also very good if cycling comes up, or just like if maybe your opponent plays a lot of Lurrus things and wants to Lurrus things back onto the battlefield. This will get rid of those things from the battlefield or from their graveyard, so they can't bring those things back. So definitely a good option there. Lumeric Aspirant is a card that is very solid. It's a 2-mana 1/1. It's plus some counters if you haven't played it before on target creature control. It can either be itself or one of our Clerics. It itself is a Cleric, so our deck is clearly Cleric Tribal, if you didn't get it from the name or what I've already been talking about. Then you got Skyclave Cleric as a way to kind of help us gain some life in certain situations, and if we need it. Yet again, it's another one of those things, if you watch my gameplay, you'll see him come in, her come in clutch in one of the games with that 2 additional points of life that does it to our opponent's face. Also, it has an alternative where we can always play it as a lane if we really do need that white mana. As our deck is pretty 50-50, I would say, on black and white cards in the deck. Then you got Elderfang Disciple. It's a 2-mana 1/1. I actually really like this card. It came from Kaldheim. And it essentially, whenever it enters the battlefield, each opponent discards a card. And I do think, there's some decks that are very aggressive, and if you can thin their hand out in the early game, and they kind of, put everything out on the battlefield, they can, it definitely can make them kind of run out of gas pretty quickly if we can kind of keep up with what they're trying to do. And getting something like this to double trigger with something like, one of our creatures dying from, and getting it back with Orath is definitely a good option there. Of course, I went 4 Heartless Axe. You can also go with Eliminates, or maybe a split of Eliminates and Heartless Axe. I just like Heartless Axe because it's pretty consistent. We don't really put counters on things, so we're not have to worry about that. Though it does not, if our opponent does play counters on their things, it does get a little tricky there to destroy target creature. But I do think it's a pretty solid choice for removal. Then I went with Null Priest Oblivion. Just being a 2/1 Menace Lifelinker, so just a decent way to get through because, they have to commit 2 blockers to it because it has Menace. And it has the ability to kick, and when it does get kicked, we get to return target creature card from the graveyard to the battlefield, so just have another way to get things back. So I do think that's kind of also why the way I didn't go with Call the Death Dweller, just because we do have some other options there. Then we got Clerics of Life Bond. This is kind of like the pride mate of this deck, because whenever another cleric enters the battlefield under control, we gain a life, and whenever you gain a life for the first time each turn, you get to put a +1/+1 counter on Cleric of Life Bond. So essentially, if we can kind of consistently play clerics, this guy will get bigger and bigger every time for the first time we gain life on a particular turn. If we have things with lifelink that may block gain life, we can get +1/+1 counters that way. Then we got Righteous Valkyrie, which is an interesting cleric here, just because it's an angel cleric. It's also from Kaldheim. It's a flying. It's 2/4. Whenever another angel or cleric enters the battlefield under our control, we gain life equal to that creature's toughness. Just an additional way for us to gain some additional life to trigger vetoes, possibly. And if we have 7 or more life than our starting life total, creatures we control have +2/+2, which definitely helps us out, which makes our creatures that much stronger. The whole getting over, our starting life total in a certain way to trigger these certain things is definitely a benefit, but that's not really what we're trying to go for. We're just trying to utilize the gain in the life ability. So if we get there, we get there. If not, it's okay. Then we got Demon's Disciple, which is another cleric here. It's a 3-mana 3/1. When it enters the battlefield, each player sacrifices a creature or planeswalker. This is actually fairly interesting because I do think it's pretty versatile that it does creature and or planeswalker. And all we gotta do is throw something in the graveyard in the process, which in due process, we can trigger an Orath possibly. We can always play this, sacrifice maybe another 3-drop, get back a 2-drop, trigger something else, and so on and so forth. So definitely a very interesting card there as just some additional removal. You can always give something back like an Archang's Vessel, stuff like that. Then you got Tabarax, A Hope's Demise. It's a 3-mana 2/2 Demon Cleric. It has flying, and it's just, if it has lifelink, as long as it has 5 or more +1/+1 counters on it, we do have ways to give it +1/+1 counters, so that's definitely very good. Whenever a non-token creature you control dies, we get to put a +1/+1 counter on him. If we do, and that creature was a cleric, we may draw a card and gain 1 life, so that's definitely a pretty cool trigger ability because the deck is playing white and black. We don't have any ways of drawing cards, so this is definitely a good way to do that. And if we ever get him up, to a 7/7, at least he is then gonna have lifelink as well, which definitely can be very good. But overall, a 3-mana 2/2 flyer with that ability is definitely solid as well. Then you got Veto of Thorn of Dusk Rose. If you played any sort of, Orzhov lifelink style deck of any sort, he's kind of like the main card you want in the deck just because of that ability of whenever you gain life, target opponent loses that much life. So it's like you gain stuff, they lose stuff. And in one of the games, he's definitely going to come up pretty clutch with his second ability because creatures we control gain lifelink at the end of turn, which is then, regardless of a creature having lifelink or not, they're just going to, get hit for damage regardless. So definitely a pretty solid card. 3 toughness is pretty good there. Sure, the power is not really great, but that's not really what he's here for. He's really here for just giving us, the benefit of us, gaining life and making our opponent lose life in the process. And we already went over Orath, Skyclave Hierophant, 4-mana 3/3 lifelinker with the whole ability of whenever another cleric dies, we get to return a cleric that costs lesser than it back from the graveyard to the battlefield. So if we can get this engine out on the battlefield, we definitely can win some games and definitely annoy our opponent in the process. And with the mana base, it's pretty straightforward. We're playing 7 plains, 2 castle lockplains, 8 swamps, 4 of the bright climb pathways and grim climb pathways for the untapped mana, which makes us more aggressive. And we went with 1 Temple of Silence. Actually, funny story about this deck before we dive into the games. I actually built this deck originally trying to upgrade the original starter deck, and then somehow it went really cleric based, and I was like, you know what, let's just make it a separate cleric deck. So that's actually the weird story of how we got there. So if you actually notice, this mana base is actually pretty similar to the starter deck with a couple of the rares and stuff like that tweaked, and also castle lockplanes added in. But other than that, guys, let's dive into some games. Let's see how I do. I already know the results, but You guys get to see how I do. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments below. You know, our hand seems keepable. It has decent stuff in it. So yeah, we'll keep. We are playing some good old clerics. And our opponent's playing something blue. Blue black. Demir? Looks like Demir controls, so keeping them off wrong cards is probably gonna be good, so let's make him discard. Probably puts them in a little bit of predicament because they could have some good cards. Okay, so they're playing maybe Demir Flash is based on my knowledge there, just based on that. So we do have to watch out for counter spells on our creatures. Interesting. They have something. I mean, they have a draw effect here. That's fine. Taps them down so they can't actually do anything there. And then we'll play Valkyrie. Say go. Alright, so they Extinction Event, which is not terrible for us. I mean, it could have been worse. We'll Luminarch here. We'll go attacks. Hit a counter here. Swing in for 2. Discard a card. Alright, they've got rid of a counter spell, which is good for us, I think. Interesting. We'll just get rid of it. Still take 5 damage. And then we'll say go. I mean, they gotta look for an answer here or gain some life. I mean, they may have the answer. Heartless Act is they can get rid of the aspirant here with Heartless Act. Eliminate would be good here. They have a lot of land. So there is that. We are kind of in a weird predicament because we haven't really drawn anything. And I've seen other things. Orath is pretty decent. I'm going to attack him with just these two because they could have another flash spell. Alright, Erebos Intervention. Draw a card, gain 4 life, that's fine. That is fine. We will play big ol' Orath and say go. We are all in on the clerics here. Alright, drawing a bunch of cards. Puts them in an okay spot. I mean, we'll gain some life, I guess. And then we'll say go. Alright, they're drawing a lot of cards. Okay. Extinction Event. Would be my guess. Book. Draw a card. Dead. Yes. Okay. Okay. We're on the play. This hand's actually decent. Don't have a turn 1 play, so I think I may play Castle Lockman to play tapped. Go from there. Because eventually that would have to, if I don't draw a swamp, that would have to come into play tap, so I do think that's the play. Their opponent's on a Yorion deck. Can mean one of many Yorion things. It's either the Yorion meta deck that's currently out there. Esper, being foretold, possibly. I mean, Heartless Act is almost pointless there, so there is that. I guess I play something. Might as well put some presents on the board. Make him have to actually start dealing with the board itself. Just blue and white. Skyclave. Alright. No, I mean, you played Skyclave. I guess we play another Luminarch. A second black is fine. And then we'll end turn. Extinction event. Elspeth's Nightmare. Fine. I'll draw a card. Now they read the card. Sure. I feel like they're angry about it. Archine's Vessel. Demon Disciple. Sacrifice. I'll get back my card. Resolve. Resolve. Swinging for 5. At 9. End turn. I get to do something with it. You don't get to take it. All right. I honestly think he's waddling right now. Sure. You're still at 7. Need a body. Not sure what they're playing here. Veto? You gotta kill something. Fair. So they're still gonna take 3. Puts them down to possibly take 3. I don't know what they're setting up mana. They lose 3. Why would you take? I'm so confused. We'll play this. Gain 2, you lose 2. You should have gotten rid of the veto if that was what your concern was. I think I kill him first. I'm unsure though. We'll see what happens here. Yeah, that's what I thought. And we are back. So, I mean, my Cleric Reanimate deck really never got to take off in a sense, just based on the matchups we played in our games we did play in this video. I know this deck was kind of thrown more so together just to give you something here, just because I haven't posted in a while. So I do appreciate you guys coming to check out the deck. It is a fun deck when it does work. I do think there's some interesting things about the deck that kind of, you know, it's kind of cool to play this style of Clerics Tribal. But with that being said, guys, let me know what you guys think about the deck down in the comments below. What, you know, if you played a similar style Clerics deck, what cards do you like to play in Clerics? I'll have a deck list as well for this deck in the comments below as well. But I do appreciate it, guys. If you like the video, hit that like button. It definitely helps out a lot. And if you're new here, like the videos, hit that subscribe button. But I'll see you in the next Magic the Gathering video.